You are born into the smell of cigarettes and tatami. Not the clean kind of tatami you see in travel magazines. The kind that has absorbed 30 years of sweat, shochu, and quiet desperation. Osaka's Kamigasaki district doesn't appear on tourist maps. It exists in the negative space between the city's glossy brochures, a place the rest of Osaka has agreed, through collective silence, to pretend isn't there. Your name is Kenji, you are 8 years old and you already know 3 things most adults spend their whole lives avoiding. Money is the only language that doesn't lie. Fear moves faster than kindness. And the men in dark suits who visit your apartment on the 1st of every month are the most polite people you have ever met. That last one took you the longest to understand. Your father, Hiroshi, is a day laborer with a gift for pachinko and a talent for owing the wrong people. Your mother, Yuki, works doubles at a hostess bar in Shinsekai, coming home before dawn smelling like other men's cigarettes and the particular exhaustion of women who have run out of options. You cook your own rice. You walk yourself to school. You do your homework by the window because the overhead bulb flickers and your father hasn't replaced it since spring. You are a child raising himself in the margins of a city that doesn't know you exist. But the men in dark suits notice you. They always notice the quiet ones. The night everything changes smells like instant ramen and cigarette smoke. You are 9 years old. It is past midnight. You are pretending to sleep in the corner of the 6 tatami apartment when 3 men let themselves in with a key your father apparently gave them as collateral. They don't knock. People who own the debt own the door. They sit at your kitchen table like they were invited. The one in the center pours himself tea from your mother's kettle. His hands are steady. His voice, when he speaks, is the voice of a man explaining something obvious to someone slow. He tells your mother the number. 30 million yen. He says it the way a doctor delivers a terminal diagnosis, not with cruelty, but with the particular gentleness of someone who has already moved past the emotional part of the conversation. Your mother's hands grip the table edge. Your father stares at the floor like it owes him something. You watch from the corner with your eyes almost closed. You memorize everything. The way the center man's left hand rests flat while his right hand holds the teacup. The way he never raises his voice but the room temperature drops with every sentence. The way your father's shoulders cave inward, becoming smaller, becoming nothing, while this man simply sits and speaks and drinks his tea. This is your first lesson in power.it requires no fists. Only mathematics delivered in a calm voice to people who have no room left to negotiate. 3 weeks later your father disappears. No note. No shoes. Just an empty futon and a closet missing his only good jacket. He bought new one somewhere with money that should have gone toward the debt, which tells you the leaving was planned, which tells you the cowardice was deliberate, which tells you some wounds are architectural, built into the foundation of a person long before you arrive to live inside them. Your mother does the only thing left to do. She walks into the syndicate office on a Tuesday morning wearing her best clothes and offers them the one asset remaining. You, not to be hurt. To work. She negotiates with the precision of a woman who has already lost everything worth protecting except one thing and is now trading that thing to protect what's left of herself. The Oyabun, a compact man named Sudo with kind eyes and a stillness that makes the air around him feel different, looks at this skinny 9-year-old with oversized glasses and sees something that has nothing to do with childhood. He sees a return on investment. He agrees to the arrangement. Your debt repayment begins that afternoon. Interest rate 40% monthly. Estimated completion date, never. They start you at the bottom because the bottom is where they test what a person is made of. Your title is runner. Your office is the streets of Kamigasaki. Your uniform is whatever doesn't make you look like what you are, which at 9 years old is easy because nobody looks at a skinny kid with glasses carrying an envelope and thinks criminal infrastructure. They think homework. They think errand. They think nothing, which is exactly the point. Your supervisor is Tanaka. Mid-40s. Built like a vending machine. Missing the tip of his left pinky, which in this organization functions as a resume entry under the heading of past accountability. He looks at you on your first morning the way people look at stray cats, with a mixture of pity and the private calculation of whether you're worth the trouble of feeding. He gives you 3 rules standing outside a convenience store at 7 in the morning with a cigarette he doesn't offer to share. Never steal from the family, never disrespect a superior. Never show fear to a debtor. He explains the third one with the patience of a man who has learned everything the hard way and developed opinions about it. Fear is a virus, Kenji. You let them see it in your eyes and it travels down their spine, and suddenly the person who owes money thinks they have choices. Your entire job is the architecture of choicelessness. You build the walls so carefully they forget walls exist. You are 9 years old and you are receiving a masterclass in psychological control from a man missing a fingertip outside a family mart at sunrise. You file everything away. By 12 you are writing collections with Tanaka the way a medical student rounds with a senior surgeon. Except the patients owe money instead of carrying disease, and the treatment protocol has only one outcome. Pay or suffer. Your first solo collection is a takoyaki vendor in Shinsekai named Oda. Borrowed 2 million yen. Business failed because his batter recipe was wrong and his location was worse. 3 months behind. Tanaka drives you there and stays outside. He tells you the conversation is yours. You sit across from a grown man who outweighs you by 40 kilograms, you open the file. You read the numbers aloud: principal, interest, penalties, total outstanding. You don't raise your voice. You don't lean forward. You don't touch anything on his side of the table. You just let the mathematics sit between you like a third person in the room, patient and permanent and entirely indifferent to his feelings about it. He starts sweating at the penalties line that he offers partial payment. You explain, with the politeness of a bank teller describing an overdraft fee, that partial payment is acceptable but triggers a 15% compounding late charge on the remaining balance, recalculated weekly, and that the family values its relationships and hopes this one continues productively. He pays in full the next morning. Tanaka hears the outcome and nods once. That nod costs him nothing and means everything to you, which is something you will spend years unlearning. By 16 they call you the calculator. Not because of the arithmetic, although your arithmetic is exceptional, but because you calculate the precise psychological pressure each debtor requires before they collapse inward and pay. You study targets before visiting. Routines. Children. Pressure points. A private school father doesn't need physical threat. He needs someone to mention gently how fragile glass is in this neighborhood at 3 in the morning while discussing the importance of stable income for tuition continuity. You never say you'll break the windows, you talk about glass. The implication does the violence. The implication is not technically a crime. By 19 Pseudo assigns you the case that changes everything. A real estate developer. 800 million yen. Defaulted. Lawyers, accountants, security detail. The kind of man who believes his infrastructure makes him untouchable. You spend 3 weeks mapping his entire life before you make contact. His wife's family owns ryokan in Kyoto. His son is applying to Tokyo University Law School where criminal association means automatic rejection. His mistress has an apartment registered under a shell company connected to the same accounts he used for the syndicate loan. You compile everything into a folder. You request a meeting at a tea house in Nakanoshima. Neutral ground. He arrives with 2 bodyguards. You arrive alone, you set the folder on the table and slide it across without opening it. You tell him the syndicate values collaborative solutions and you're here to discuss a restructured payment arrangement. 60 installments. Reduced interest. Collateralized against the ryokan chain. If he agrees, the folder stays closed. If he doesn't, the folder opens simultaneously to his wife, his son's admissions committee, and the Kyoto Tourism Board. He signs before the tea cools. Pseudo calls you personally for the first time that evening. For words. Your management now, Kenji. You are 19 years old and you have just been promoted to running the machine that has been running you since you were 9. The symmetry of this doesn't occur to you yet. It will. But not tonight. Tonight there is only the clean cold satisfaction of a system working exactly as designed. You are the system now. That is the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to you, and it feels like winning. You don't cry when you leave with them. You learn from your father what crying costs and gets you. You just look back once at your mother standing in the doorway of the apartment, her hands folded in front of her, her face doing the thing faces do when people have finished feeling and moved into surviving. You turn forward, you walk. This is the last moment of your childhood, and you spend it looking at the back of a stranger's jacket, learning the particular texture of a door closing behind you forever. Management is a word that means different things in different worlds. In this one it means a corner office in a building that doesn't exist on any business registry. It means 6 collectors who call you Kenji-san with the specific deference of people who understand the consequences of not meaning it. It means access to the full syndicate ledger, 12 billion yen in outstanding receivables across 400 active accounts, a number so large it stops feeling like money and starts feeling like weather. Something that exists above individual human lives and simply determines conditions. You systematize everything, because that's what you do. That's what you've always done. You take chaos and build architecture inside it. You create risk profiles for every debtor. Repayment probability. Asset exposure. Psychological vulnerability index. You implement tiered collection strategy with the clean logic of a consulting framework. Tier 1, polite reminder. Tier 2, financial pressure. Tier 3, social pressure. Tier 4, physical intimidation, deployed last because it's the least efficient method with the highest operational risk and the most complicated cleanup. Your collection rate hits 94% in the first year, the previous manager achieved 61%. Pseudo sends other branch managers to observe your methods. You are 23 years old and you have built a management consulting framework for organized crime. You sit in meetings with men twice your age who take notes when you speak. You wear suits that fit now. You eat at restaurants where the menu has no prices because the kind of people who eat there don't ask. You have become, without noticing the precise moment it happened, exactly what those men in dark suits were when they sat at your kitchen table and drank your mother's tea. The realization arrives not as guilt but as information. You file it away the way you file everything, but the faces start coming at night. Not in the waking hours. Those are too structured for anything as inefficient as feeling. But in sleep the architecture collapses and the faces get through. The takoyaki vendor whose wife left him 6 weeks after you restructured his payments and garnished his daily income. The schoolteacher who borrowed for her mother's surgery and now works 3 jobs to meet your schedule. The college student who defaulted and dropped out and was last seen working construction in Amagasaki, his university entrance exam scores, which you saw in his file because you see everything in everyone's file, the kind of scores that should have taken him somewhere with a future in it. These people are not criminals. They are humans who needed money in a world where legitimate institutions don't lend to people who actually need it. The Yakuza fills that gap. And you are the mechanism that ensures the gap remains profitable. You tell yourself you're just doing mathematics. Mathematics existed before you arrived. It will exist after you leave. You tell yourself you're a surgeon who cannot afford to think about the person attached to the organ. But surgeons save lives, Kenji, you just extract value from them until the extraction is complete. Then comes the widow, her name is Matsuda Hiromi. Her husband was a mid-level associate who died during a territorial dispute in Tenjin, a workplace accident in the clinical language your organization uses for violence it considers routine. He left behind an 18 million yen debt and a 14-year-old daughter named Aoi. Syndicate policy on inherited debt is simple and has never once bent for sentiment. Blood doesn't erase ink. You visit the apartment on a Wednesday afternoon. It is small and clean in the way that takes deliberate effort from someone with very little. The husband's photograph sits on a shelf beside a bowl of fresh rice and a stick of incense still burning. The air smells like cedar and grief and the specific cleanliness of a space maintained by someone who has decided that dignity is the one thing they will not surrender. Aoi is at the kitchen table doing homework. She looks up when you enter. She doesn't look frightened, she looks resigned, which is worse, because resignation in a 14-year-old means she already understood what the men in suits coming to the door signifies. Her mother told her. Or she figured it out herself. Either answer is devastating. You sit down, you open the file, you begin reading the numbers, and then you stop. Because Aoi's textbook is open to an advanced mathematics page and the equations she's solving in the margins, not assigned equations, additional ones she's working through for what appears to be personal interest, are more sophisticated than anything in your curriculum at her age. She's solving them correctly. You look at this girl and the architecture inside you develops a crack so small you almost don't notice it. Almost, you close the file, you tell Matsuda Hiromi you are restructuring the debt at 0 interest on a 10-year repayment term. This decision exceeds your authority by a distance that in this organization is measured not in policy violations but in fingers. Possibly in more than fingers, you walk out without filing the visit report. Sudo knows within a week because Sudo always knows because nothing moves in this organization without leaving a record in the one ledger that matters, which is the one inside his head. He calls you in on a Friday morning. His office smells like wood polish and the particular calm of a man who has never needed to raise his voice because the volume of what surrounds him does that work permanently. He doesn't yell. He never yells. He sits across from you in his wood-paneled chair and asks the question with the gentleness of someone who already knows the answer and is giving you one opportunity to give the right one. Are you losing your edge, Kenji? You tell him no. You tell him the restructured arrangement maximizes long-term recovery probability on a low-value account with high reputational risk given the deceased's organizational affiliation. You dress mercy in the language of strategy because in this room compassion without a business justification is not a human quality. It is a security vulnerability. He listens. He nods. But something moves behind his eyes that doesn't reach his face. A notation. An entry in the internal ledger. You have just learned the final rule that Tanaka never taught you because Tanaka assumed you would never need it. You can be feared. You can be respected. You can be essential. But the moment the organization suspects your loyalty to the numbers has been compromised by something as operationally inconvenient as a conscience, the performance review takes a direction from which there is no restructured payment plan. No reduced interest. No 10-year term, just the math, cold. Final. Compounding. You leave Sudo's office and stand in the corridor outside for exactly 11 seconds. You count them because counting is the only thing that has ever made the world feel manageable, and then you straighten your jacket and walk toward your office and begin, very quietly, very carefully, planning the only collection you have left, your own exit. You have been skimming for years. Not money. Information. Every transaction. Every collection. Every police officer on the payroll. Every politician whose campaign received contributions that don't appear in public filings. Every money laundering route threaded through restaurants and construction companies and the kind of legitimate businesses that agree to stay legitimate on paper only. You stored it the way every intelligent person in this organization stores leverage. As insurance, but insurance and a detonator are the same device pointed in different directions. You contact a prosecutor in Tokyo through a chain of intermediaries assembled with the same methodical patience you brought to every collection. The message is simple. You have everything. Account structures. Leadership hierarchy. Political connections. Money trails that lead to offices with views of the Diet building. In exchange you want two things: witness protection. For yourself and your mother. And the cancellation of every debt in your branch's active ledger. 400 families, freed with the stroke of a pen by a prosecutor who will spend the next decade giving interviews about the case. The prosecutor agrees in principle. The operation timeline is 90 days. On day 63, Tanaka calls you. It is 2 in the morning. His voice is the flat voice of a man who has moved past emotion into something that lives on the other side of it. He tells you Sudo knows. Not everything. Enough. He tells you to run. Tonight. Now. The head start he is giving you is measured in hours and shrinking. You ask him why. The line is quiet long enough that you think the call has dropped, then he says it. Because I recruited a smart kid, Kenji. And I'm not going to watch them turn him into a cautionary tale. My pinky was enough of a lesson for one lifetime. You grab the hard drive. Point one bag, you leave the apartment in Dotonbori for the last time, and the Osaka night receives you the way it always has, without sentiment, without ceremony, with only the neon reflecting off the canal in colors that have no names in any language that was built for honest things. You make the train station with 40 minutes to spare. You buy the ticket with cash, you sit on the platform, and for the first time in 16 years something opens in your chest that you barely recognize, because the last time you felt it you were 9 years old watching your mother negotiate the price of your future in a syndicate office on a Tuesday morning. Hope, which is precisely when the three men step onto the platform from different entrances dressed like commuters. Professionals, the kind deployed when the job needs to look like an accident. You spot them because you trained yourself to see what other people's comfort allows them to miss. You have 90 seconds. You don't run. Running triggers cameras and witnesses and the kind of attention that collapses the difference between hunter and hunted. You walk, you pass a coin locker, drop the hard drive inside, pocket the key. If they take you, the evidence survives. If the evidence survives, 400 families survive. You push through the exit into the Osaka night and turn into Shinsekai, the neon jungle where Tanaka first taught you that fear is a virus and implication does the violence, and you disappear into its alleys the way you have always disappeared into systems. By understanding them better than the people running them. You lose them in 4 blocks. You reach a capsule hotel in Namba registered under a name that doesn't exist. You lie in the plastic compartment 6 inches from the ceiling, and you hold the coin locker key above your face in the pale blue light, and you look at it for a long time. 50 yen of stamped metal, behind it, 12 billion yen of syndicate operations. Behind that, 400 families in the same trap that swallowed you when you were 9 years old, sitting in the corner of a 6-tatami apartment memorizing the way powerful men drink tea while the people who love you run out of options. The final irony arrives quietly, the way the truest things always do. You have spent 16 years collecting debts, every door, every file, every kitchen table where you sat across from desperate people and explained the mathematics of their suffering with the calm voice of a man who learned that voice from the men who came for his family. You were never the collector, Kenji, you were the debt. Your father's 30 million yen never disappeared. It just redistributed itself across 16 years and 400 families who had nothing to do with a gambler's bar tab in Kamigasaki. Every yen you extracted was compounding interest on the original sin. And you were the mechanism, the machine inside the machine. You close your fingers around the key. The capsule hums around you. Osaka breathes outside the walls, indifferent and luminous and completely unaware that somewhere in its neon dark, the calculator is finally doing the one equation he has been avoiding since he was 9 years old, standing in a doorway watching his mother fold her hands and surrender. The sum of what you cost, the sum of what was taken. The sum of what can never be repaid regardless of what that key unlocks tomorrow. You already know the answer. You've known it since the first number you ever read aloud at a kitchen table that wasn't yours. Some debts don't have a payment structure. They just have a silence at the end where the math runs out, and then nothing.